Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. Welcome to our new training on n8n. So today I am going to present to you a workflow that I created today. It is active, it is operational. It took me several hours to set it up. My goal is to create a system that you can simply upload here and run on your own machine. The workflow, this one in fact is going to do research for me on the internet. It will work with Perplexity. It will use AI and Perplexity to find new developments on topics that I will announce from the start. And afterwards it will obviously go up to ChatGPT to draft either articles, newsletters, or information related to that topic. These pieces of information, I have the choice to either put them on my blog, WordPress, if I want to send them to WordPress, or if I want to store them in a database, or use Google products to do mailings, or save them in calendars, or perform several other tasks. Also, the tool at the end will notify me on Slack. I use Slack as a communication tool among my team members. Of course, for you, you can replace it with WhatsApp or Telegram, depending on the tool you use. The innovation in this workflow that I created actually calls upon what we call MCP servers. These are very, very powerful servers, so with this new feature today, we can use these servers, which obviously provide the context protocol model. So, Anthropic has written an entire article about it. The advantage of this system is that it will save me from writing a lot of code. This means that you just need to install this MCP, which I will show you. And this MCP will allow the AI to communicate with several external software without me having to write code. So I will simply let this machine, this AI, do the work for me. My goal in this training at the beginning is to show you how the flow of information circulates between all these nodes. I will show you, of course, how you can adapt this entire scenario according to your needs, according to your objectives. And above all, don't forget, it's a system that is operational today, it is online. Stay until the end of the video so I can show you how to download it and how to deploy it on your own machine. I thank you very much and enjoy the training. So just before starting to test and run our workflow, it's very interesting to talk a little about n8n. So, for those who are not familiar with it, simply put, it is a very powerful tool. First of all, it's a very powerful open source tool that allows us to create automation scenarios. So, in a way, the difference between this tool and Make is that while Make is indeed user-friendly and very easy to use, there are some constraints with Make that we cannot overcome. Scenarios, let's say, that are a bit more complex. So, as a result, today, the trend when using n8n, especially with the emergence of models or MCP servers, is that they make development and the connection between software very easy to handle, even for beginners, even for people who know nothing about coding and programming. So today, to run n8n, there are several ways. Either you download it and work on it locally, but that requires some technical and IT knowledge to be able to install it on the computer, and especially it requires a very powerful computer to run all these mechanisms and have a computer that doesn't shut down. Because what's very interesting with the scenarios is that they need to be active all the time to run. That's why we look for online solutions to run n8n and simply create scenarios and import them and not leave an internal machine on the computer running at home 24/7. So that's why we turn to online solutions. Today, n8n on their website actually offers a subscription that, well, let's say has 3 constraints. First, it's a bit expensive, so it's 24 euros per month. And on top of that, there's a limit on the number of workflows for all active workflows. This means that you can create up to 2,500 workflows, but only 5 can be active. And that's very, very few. Because if we want to test, if we want to create mechanisms and production in our company, working with just 5 is very limited. Unless we switch to an expert mode, which is obviously much more expensive. And another thing regarding n8n they're hosting today, they cannot accept what we call MCP servers. They haven't updated yet, or they are not adapted to it today. So that's why we're trying to use other solutions, like the one I personally use, which is Hostinger. So on Hostinger, I only pay 10.89% euros as per month. And that simply allows me to have this interface. You will see that in this interface, when I click on administer my n with n application, you will see that if I go into the settings, I have this option here, which is very interesting. It's unlimited. The number of workflows is unlimited. And above all, the number of active workflows is unlimited. So as a result, we don't have that limit. And that is very, very interesting. In addition to that, you will see that here there is what we call community notes. That one, in fact, we cannot use on n8n, unfortunately, because it's only here where I can install it. What we call MCP notes, MCP servers, are actually the servers that have been set up. It's a language, if you will, for connection called Model Context Protocol, where I can find all the applications that can be, there you go, added and used without having to code or program. Here, a quick overview of the number of applications. Today, there are approximately between 300 and 350 applications. You will see, like here, I was using Slake. There, it was obviously added. There are all the Google products. You will look there. There is actually a whole base of several software, several databases. Even Make, we can also use it. So these servers here, everything you're seeing here, everything otherwise there, we can do them in our scenarios without having to program and develop. In fact, each action separately. So this one, it's like, we can say it's a language there. It can communicate with all the software and it's artificial intelligence that will handle the programming. This is really what has revolutionized the n8n model today. And that's why today practically many people are migrating to n8n to use its power and strength. Because really looking at Notion, we have only n8n as well. We can integrate a server called n8n. This server is ready to help us, in fact, to fix the bugs within the workflow. So really there are a lot of tasks that have been added. Here are also the open-air products. You will see. Of course, I will show you that there is the possibility to call upon other tools as well. If I do, for example, Perplexity, for instance, by looking, I find that Perplexity is available in the MCP server model. But if I go here into my workflow, when I type Perplexity, for example, you will see that I can't find it. It is not available. So the models with the servers, MCP, that really revolutionizes n8n. And it actually gives us the ability to create a lot of high-quality scenarios that will be very easy to set up and deploy. So here, we will actually continue to read and understand our workflow. And afterwards, I will show you how to install an n8n server in an unlimited way and install the protocols. If you want the MCP to obviously be able to create this workflow or simply run it. Let's go. So reading our scenario. So you will see that here I have placed 3 blocks. So we have this first block here. So we will try to frame it. This block, in fact, is a block where I will simply launch the search on Perplexity. And here I have placed a second block. You will see that inside this block, all the variables that depend on my company, I put them here. Why? Because if this workflow is ever used by another company, they won't enter the modules to change the information. They will just go here to update certain variables. And this allows for a system that works with what we call dynamic workflows. And this helps enormously to have very clean code. And here, if you like, this is the machine with this intelligence, this agent, which obviously has a brain. The brain is open. So we will start by reading first this initial part. In this initial part here, I have placed a form. This means that the system only triggers with a form, and the form is this one. It's a form, in fact, where I will put, for example, here a subject, a keyword, information, or simply ask it to search for something on Perplexity. Here you just need to enter a single word or a sentence or a paragraph or even a link. And then what will happen is it will simply go to this module. This module will call the Perplexity API. We will try to look at it in detail. And this API, in fact, what it will do is retrieve all the information, all the data that exists on the internet and provide a result. Of course, I try to format the output a little because Perplexity, when it sends back information, it doesn't just send text, but also links, previews, and resources. So there's really a lot of data, and I don't want to overwhelm the system with too much data. So I format it here and only take the data that interests me. So this is the first part where I will trigger my system. We will just fill out this form here. I wanted to create an external form because this form has its own link that I share, either with my team or myself. So I just enter and input the information. And sometimes even this system, in fact, I can make the filling out of this information even automatic. But that, of course, requires adding another piece of information to another trigger. But for me, I wanted to do it manual. So every time I have an idea, some information, or I want to create data, I will just write here a sentence or a question or any topic in this form. Second section, workflow configuration. And this is what I advise you to do every time you work on a system. Think about putting the information in a way, in a global configuration. We call these global variables. Why? Because if you ever want to change the information, sometimes we forget to change it in all the nodes. And so, if you change it just once here in the main variable, you will really know that your system will save you time in editing and changing. And another thing, sometimes imagine that this workflow, for example, I develop it and put it up for sale. If a company ever buys it and uses it, I won't waste time entering the node and changing it again. For example, the email address of that company. So, I will show you when I use this workflow, I double-click here, or I right-click and select Open. And you will see that here I have specified 3 important variables. This is a variable called email. So here I will put the email address where I want to, for example, receive the article or information. And here I have put my Slack channel ID because, of course, when I want to communicate with my ID. Regarding topics related to this workflow, I write a channel on Slack that everyone, in fact, can find. And the agent will communicate with us with the Slack bot on that channel. And here I have set up a database, I have created a database, and inside that database I will also put the database ID. For example, I'll take a very simple example. This is a database, so I will show you the database. This is my database. I am writing a database where I will put, for example, what we call here the subject we are going to discuss. All right? Because when I put keywords, artificial intelligence will detect the subject. It will create optimized content for me. It will give me the link to that article. It will obviously change its status, whether it's published, in draft, deleted, under review, and so on. So, in fact, this database, you will see that it actually contains an ID. Every company that creates its own database will have an ID. So therefore, this ID to connect with this system, look, I will simply copy this ID. There you go. So I take this ID, I will copy it and simply put it into my system. Here, this is my ID, okay? And I also have, of course, the ID from Slake. So, Slake, I will show you right away. This is Slake. For example, I created a channel. Well, I can choose any channel if I want to work on this one or if I want to work on that one. Imagine I want to work on this or even that one, training. Of course, if I am going to work on the training, I obviously have to do an @ here. And call upon, in fact here at n with n. Of course, these are settings to be made to simply invite the bot to enter because it cannot speak in a channel without having permissions. So there. When I click here, I add it to this channel, you will see that here it can talk to me. This workflow, it can talk to me thanks to this invitation and me, of course. If I actually look at this channel, I can obviously click here, retrieve this, its ID, and look at each channel. In fact, it has an ID, so this code here, I will copy it here. There you go, I copy it, I come back here, and then I put it there. So this part, this column, I put the information that interests me in relation to my own channel, in relation to my own database. And also, I just write an email address to test this workflow. It's an email address, just temporary, just for the test. Afterwards, it will be permanently deleted. I place this email address so that it can communicate with me at this address. You see here, when I update this information, you will see that I won't need to modify or change it inside the nodes. If I change the email address, I won't go looking for where it will send me, or enter the Gmail node, or enter the prompt. No, we don't touch it. We do it in a general way. I can, of course, add other information here. For example, here I'm using GPT 4.0 chat. Point 1.2. then to 4. So if I want to work with O3 Mini, or I want to work with another model, listen, I can define the model name here, and then the system will use it. I won't need to enter the node or take it to change the settings. So that's the idea of using global variables. It really allows us not to touch the code, not to touch the node. Especially, we can easily forget about them. So as a result, I have updated my workflow. There you go, you just need to exit. There is no save option. So here you will see that you just need to click and it saves the data. So as a result, what I did in this block is update the information. That's what you need to do to be able to look here at the diagram, how it will be done. All these variables will be sent to this brain so that it can run and function. And there you go. So now we are in the third section. So this is the most important section. Here too, we have our AI agent. This AI agent will operate based on inputs, meaning entries. It needs to receive information. Primarily, it will receive information from Perplexity, if you will, for it to process. And I also added that it can receive information from chat. But I did that just to test the modules. Sometimes I just need to test a single module here, and I want to interact with that intelligence. I won't need to resend the entire search and send all the information and work through all the nodes. It's just to optimize, especially during tests. I remind you that in order to have an operational system, we worked hard to create several versions to finally have this operational system. So imagine if I were to run the entire system, it would waste a lot of time, and sometimes I would need to talk to it to understand the flows. The goal of this video is also to give you good habits, because creating a workflow, no one can create it in 2 minutes with a system that works 100%. Especially when we have AI and when we have connections with APIs, we need to test. Everyone tests, everyone debugs and fixes errors. So you simply need to have this behavior of being able to analyze the flow in order to later make decisions and fix bugs or errors. If they exist, okay. Don't forget that this artificial intelligence, this agent, also receives the variables. So the variables here, it will receive them from the start so it can really work with them. So as a result, it has 3 inputs. This one is optional. This one is the most important. And this one is also important because I declare the variables. If I actually break this connection, look, if I break it, it will no longer know, in fact, the variables that will be called inside. So, as a result, it is very, very important for me that this system is also connected here, that it runs and functions. So here, it's related to what we call the input. So, at the level of a small one, the third is optional and 2 are mandatory for the system to work. And so, now we are going to talk about our agent. There is, in fact, this core here, which is very, very important. It was necessary to understand well. What are the inputs, what are the outputs, and what are, in fact, the tools that are connected to this agent? So, I will simply do well. We will go to our core support, and we will actually go here to this one. Here, we have what we call the official documentation as of n8n. You will see that here they are explaining, in fact, what joy is, so you will see the joy. So I would say that it can be connected to 6 pieces of information. 6, you will first the input, therefore. As a result, it must receive the information, and sometimes the input can take several formats. It can be a form, there it sends the information. It can simply be here, I can program a system where every 5 minutes I can send it data or information. So as a result, it needs a trigger. It needs somewhere for the information to enter. That's 1. 2, you will also see that it has an output. So the output here is not mandatory because sometimes it may be that here, in fact, it performs actions and we stop there. So it doesn't actually need to produce an output. And generally here, it allows for connection to other systems and usually to other AIs or other modules. 3, we have somewhere what we call the model. We can say this is the brain. An AI system actually needs a brain to think, and generally here we connect an LLM model. It doesn't necessarily have to be open. We can connect Sykes Queen, Perplexity as well. We can connect a lot of models, Cloud, Grok. So as a result, it's simple. We connect through the API a system so that it can start thinking. because generally thanks to this, it will understand the incoming information. And thanks to this, it can simply send commands and actions. And you will see that here, it has what we call a fourth part, which we call memory. Memory is not mandatory. For example, here in my system, I haven't included it, but I can add it. I can add memory here, but I didn't want to include memory because each request is independent. Why do we add memory? You will see here, for example, I click here. I choose this memory because I can ask the system to simply remember, like the last 10 or 20 connections behind the message. And that can be very interesting, especially if I am progressive, if this agent actually has a goal, and where it will handle multiple pieces of information in a discontinuous manner. So, as a result, I can come here and tell it so you will remember the last 10 discussions or it counts. Of course, look here. It connects with the session. What does that mean? The session, if I close the chat session, it will no longer remember. And that's why memory cannot function if there is no chat here. So, as a result, if I want to keep it, I can keep it. But for me, I don't use it. I prefer to delete it since I don't use the chat, as I use the information that comes directly here from Perplexity. So, if I go back, it's important you have what we call tools here. Well, tools, because we can add several tools or modules or software that the AI agent will simply operate by seeing commands within them. So here, I think it's very interesting to talk about MCP to better understand what it is. So I'll take a very simple example. Look here, I have the product, Google, it's the one from Gmail. And here I can send a message. So you'll see when I click here, look, when I click here to see a little bit of what's inside, you'll see that here I asked the AI to make the connection, to know whom to send it to. I also asked the AI to fix the subject, to draft the message, so the AI will know how to fill in that information. But be careful, this is an operation that is sent. So imagine if I want to perform a reading operation, I want it to read the address, email, or even an operation that deletes an email, or an operation, for example, that searches in an email box. All these operations require having different nodes. Okay, mentioned several names. But today, with MCP models, like here, Notion, you will see that the MCP model, in fact, when I click here, I will show you, you just need to install the MCP model and it can know all the operations it can perform with Notion. Everything. That means reading, writing, it's a database. We can perform a lot of actions. So imagine instead of doing 5 actions like reading, updating, deleting, modifying, adding, there are several actions I can perform on a database. I won't need to do that. I will just add this one that can know the different tools, and you will see I add here the MCP, also for the execution of Notion. You will see it only once. That is to say, here I have 2 to do, 5, 6, sometimes even without action. And when I click here, look, you will see that the operation, the name of the tool that will be used, like send or modify or update, it's the AI that will take care of doing it. It's the one that makes the selection. And that's what makes the difference. And that's it today. What makes the difference is that with the MCP models, I won't need to do several. So you might ask me, you say, why? Here, I didn't set Gmail as a model. MCP, because the MCPs, they have special icons. You see, that's it, that's MCP. Already, when I click, you will see that the credential, that's it, I actually created a credential. And why? In fact, I didn't use it because here, I just need to send an email, so there's no need to use an MCP model because it exists in Gmail. There is an MCP model that I can install here, but for me, I don't need to do anything else besides sending an email. So, I didn't want to do it. On the other hand, with Slake, I can do several things because I can also receive messages, feedback from my colleagues, and I can ask the AI to adjust the article or to delete or publish it. I can give commands. So, in that case, I can also ask this AI to perform other operations. So, that's why I use the MCP. And so here we understood that our AI agent has the input, the output, the LLM model. It also has memory, and it has all the tools, in fact, all that need to be done for you. Go see the one that is mandatory. So if the input is normal and the LM, then it can respond via chat itself. So if I don't put everything there, it can just respond via chat. So as a result, we have two mandatory ones. There's the memory. On the other side, everything else is optional and all. I can add multiple tools. So we are not limited to a specific number of all that. So as a result, now we understand the system, and we will try to look a little at the functions of each of these nodes. Here we go. On the LLM side, I chose ChatGPT. Gronzio. So there, it's quite simply. I connected with open and I chose this model. This model, why? Because it's a model that is inexpensive and very good at writing. So if I were using a model, for example, if I want to create a model to work with audio, there are specific models for that. There are models that are much more powerful in terms of coding, like the O3, so O3 Mini High. So as a result, there are several models, as you can see here, and it all depends on the need. For me, the need is to have a fast model and one that is not expensive and writes well. So as a result, this is the model I chose. Of course, here, I did it by list, but I can of course change it by setting it by ID. Remember, if I do it by ID, it will create an automatic system. But be careful, if I change it here by ID, I obviously need to know the ID and configure it from the global variables. But for me, I know that I only want to work with this. And for this workflow, it must work like this, with the 40. So as a result, I leave it, there you go, according to the list. So as a result, when I click on it, I will simply go to find my Kurd min. So you will see that there are several. There you go. So I will take the Po Mini. So I just needed to search to put it back. There you go, that's the one. There you go. So as a result, my system is operational. I am not going to put options on this for now. I will leave it open. So now that I have called upon my system, WordPress really, you will see WordPress simply here, it will allow me to publish directly. You will see it's the creation of a post directly on my website, on my blog, and it is actually the one that will handle all the content. You will see that here we have made a selection so that it is automatically defined by the model. That means it's not me. In fact, who will point to the variable? That's what's really strong with the agent. It is capable of filling in the information for me that it will retrieve later, and that's what makes it a strong point. I can, of course, add that it adds for me several other pieces of information, to choose a specific template for publication on WordPress, to change the status here, to set, for example, a status, for instance. Here I can ask it to set it directly to publish mode. That is to say, I really want the system to publish the system definitively, which is not actually in draft mode. So that's possible. There you go. And then we have other modules. But WordPress, for me, I haven't put. Obviously, today on the servers, we don't have a server. MCP. WordPress, not yet, but for me, it's just a writing. In the database, well done, from a word or a topic, the system will write, it will publish. It's simple, so it's a simple call. To the node, called WordPress, quite simply. There I took WordPress and added it here. So here we have Notion, so Notion. Be careful, it has been added in MCP mode. That means I'm not going to type Notion like this. Because if I type Notion here, we simply have to write each Notion operation by itself. But for me, I just did MCP. And here, once I selected MCP, I connected MCP here to Notion. And you will see that there are two types of Notion. There is a Notion to detect the tools that exist in Notion. And there, that's the Notion, execution. So for detection there, we can see inside our system. You will see that I made a connection with Notion. Of course, the connection here. If I add an MCP, you will see there, I took the command, I put the arguments, I set the environment. And to set and fully understand how to fill in this information, you will see that here, if I press Ctrl+F, I will type Notion. You will see when I enter here. On Notion, I have a whole documentation here that perfectly explains all the details and steps to take and follow to find Notion. And you will see The installation is very, very simple because here in Notion, I will simply copy the information that is here. So in command, I put npx. That's what I actually put in this part. You have the npx. And in the arguments, I put e. And I put the second argument. Be careful with these arguments. You just needed to put a space and not use quotation marks. And so in the environment, I actually need to retrieve what is called a key. It's what we call Notion API. So this is a key. In fact, to retrieve it is very simple. You will find all the steps here where it shows you how to actually create this key to retrieve it. Once it is retrieved, of course, I need to add it here. Don't forget that I created a Notion database. So this is my database. In fact, Notion, that was created. Of course, this database is also connected. So if I go back to see the database, I can put it here. There you go. This database has a connection here with n8n integration. That is to say, I have connected the database here with n8n to, of course, allow the robot to enter and work inside. Because otherwise, even with just the token, it's not enough. In any case, all the information is well explained here, step by step. So now I have obviously set up the Gmail system here. So there, on Gmail, we are going to open it. You will see that, of course, I connected it to my Gmail account, and I simply did. In fact, the objective is the send operation. So here, for me, I wanted to send, and of course, I asked the AI here, which is the one responsible for actually putting all the information. So, for example, here, if I look, for instance, at the message sending level, if I want the message to be sent to another person, it's simple. I will just change that at the level of the global variables. But we don't need to change that, and ChatGPT will understand it and fill in with the correct information thanks to this agent. So all that remains for us now, of course, we mentioned Gmail. Don't forget that Gmail also. So here, if I type Gmail, you will see, so Gmail, there is actually a model here with Gmail, as you can see. So a Gmail model with an integration that is indeed possible that I can use, but I preferred not to work with these Gmails. There is the headless Gmail. It's an even lighter version, but the most important version is actually this one, which allows you to do it. But in any case, here, there is also the possibility to configure Gmail, but I won't need it here. Maybe we'll do it in another video. But regarding this, we won't need to use Gmail as an MCP, and that's it. So here we will actually find Slack, which is simply a system for sending messages. So we will use it to send messages, and Slack, of course, is an MCP. So I created my Slack model, of course. I set the variables. It's the same thing, but of course, to find this kind of variable, I will come here and type Slack. And you will see that there, I have the entire configuration. So really, it's very, very easy to follow. You just need to, of course, check how many actions Slack can perform. It can view all the channels, it can send messages, it can reply, it can react, it can really view the history. So really, that's why I called on the MCP to, well, continue the programming afterwards. And for that, it actually shows you step by step how you create your token. And you will see, well, the MCP, so I have the command of an apex. I have two arguments, the same thing, of course I put y space. The second argument, and there at the environment level, I will set two environment variables. There's what we call the bot token, potasim, and the Slack team ID. Actually, two pieces of information that are very well explained here. How to actually retrieve them, how to actually create that. So obviously don't forget that at the Slack level. Since it's an MCP, I will always need to put two. One that will be list and one is execute tool. And of course, I have indicated that the tool will be selected by the AI. It will take care of it, and also at the parameter level. So I have actually set the general parameters where I can place them. I can actually give you a little tip that is very important. For example, there at the parameter level, you see there, I have set all the parameters that will be selected by the AI. You see there, the T is uppercase, the P is uppercase. There are sometimes, in fact, tools like Notion actually that are case sensitive. That means there, if I put it in uppercase, it doesn't work. So that's a small detail, but for you, when you import just the tool, no, you won't actually need to change that. You will just use it as it is. But, well, it's a small detail. of perfection up there to really have a system that works. So zero tolerance, of course, because if there's a bug or syntax that doesn't work, the whole mechanism will stop. Well, so there, we've made our system. We're just going to adjust it like this. So there, we've seen a bit of the information. Now, to run it, we're going to do two things first. I will show you how to download the complete source code so you can import it. And also, which is very important, I will show you step by step how to install n8n in an unlimited way. Install the MCP so that it works and runs. So, actually go to this page. So there, I've actually created a page specifically for everything related to n8n. So you enter n8n drferraz.vp. So without adding the triple W, directly you type n8n like here exactly .drvirus.vip. So really you must not make any typing errors. You must copy it exactly as it is. Once you type that, you will see that you have the option to enter your name, a small registration here, and you will download not only this template, but all the templates. That means every time I create a new scenario, I include that template in this newsletter. So once you register for free, 100% free, you will immediately receive this template. And of course, as I mentioned here, I will send the upcoming templates in advance and also notify you if there are any offers related to n8n. You can obviously follow along with the automation. Once you download, you will see exactly that you can simply upload, like here, the file I will give you. The file is a JSON file, exactly this one. I will show you, but first we need to set up the n8n environment in an unlimited way with the possibility of installing the MCP. So I will show you step by step. And so here we are in the phase where we need to set up our working environment, which means simply installing n8n on a server where I can, of course, perform the installation and deployment of my architecture. And the goal, so I would like to show you the goal. The goal is to have a server like this, where I actually have control to handle and install tools. So I'm going to use the one from Hostinger. I will provide you with the link. It's a link, in fact, that will take you directly to this page. Be careful, we need it to be on this page, the page where it's adapted with a special n8n VPS, because there are actually a lot of services and servers offered here. That are offered here. But the only one that interests us is the n8n one, so I will put the link in the description. You need to be on this page, then we will have the possibility to install this MCP. Okay, so how does it work? It's simple. So here we have the price of 6.99. You will see that there are several offers, but for me, what I recommend is this one. Why? Because there are two processors. You will see, so there are two processors, which is more than enough to run the Gmail, WhatsApp, Facebook modules, and everything related to WordPress. No need to have a more powerful system than that. This one is more than sufficient and fast. So to get it, I will select here. There you go. It's actually simple. It's a simple selection. And you will obviously choose. Well, if you take it monthly, it might be a bit more expensive. 1 month will go to 8. Well, at 8 euros, it's still much better than 24 euros. But I prefer to go to a server as soon as the automations need to stay active as early as possible and for as long as possible. So I take it. For 24 months, I'll even give you a little coupon here. You can use it. You enter Dr. Firas. Okay, you apply it. And well, you get another discount. There you go. So it will come to around 150 for the 2 years. So that's very, very interesting. So then, once we take this system, you will see that I will have the possibility to fully install my system afterwards. So all that's left to do is just press this button here to continue. And I remind you here, this is also a very important note. There is a 30-day guarantee. That means I can buy the server, test, perform automations, and I have up to 30 days. Even if I do several automations, I have up to 30 days to request a refund. If the server does not meet my needs, the automations are not up to my expectations. But really, with a server that has a 30-day guarantee, it can truly interest beginners to get started. So I just invite you to click to proceed to the payment step. And afterwards, we will find ourselves on the configuration interface. So right after the payment, we will be here in this interface to start configuring our server. You will first choose the physical location of your server. You will find several locations. Personally, I choose France since I have clients in France. So as a result, it's very optimized for traffic management. I select continue. And here it's very important, you will find several types of servers. What interests me is this one actually, is the n8n. You can simply type n8n here and you will find that server. If I then select this server, it will obviously tell me that it will work with the Ubuntu 24.04 version, which is the very latest version, and I click on select. Here it suggested adding what is called a malware system, which is simply an antivirus that will actually protect the server from attacks such as injections. So I will activate it, it's free, and then I will create my account with my login and password. So here I choose a login and password. I can click here to use the automatic generation, and here is the name of my server. You will copy this information and also copy your password information to a secure place because you will need it when we connect with SSH to our server later. So here I click on continue. It will take a few moments to complete the installation and configuration of the server. Generally, it's quick. Let's say in about 3 minutes you will find the key. The configuration of your VPS is ready to be deployed, so you just need to wait for the installation to successfully complete. Now I can directly access it to configure my VPS. Here there are SSH access details, which are very important to copy, so make sure to copy them to a secure place along with the login and password. You also have the option to get a custom domain name to access your VPS. Of course, you can click here and select the domain name that interests you. As you can see, there are options for €4, and you can even find some for less than €2 or even less than €1. It's a choice you can make whenever you want to give a direct name to your VPS. To access it now and perform the final configuration, I click here on VPS and you will see that I can simply click to access my server. This is a small form that you can simply skip and go directly to manage the application. So I clicked here and I need to define an email with which I will access my VPS, as well as a username where you put your first name, last name and password here. You can activate here if you want to receive updates. Otherwise, you will click on next and there you go. I am surely on the interface. There is the possibility here to click to receive a free lifetime license key to unlock the features and additional functionalities. I click on send me a free license key to receive this free key in my email inbox. And here we go. Now I am on my n8n interface, where I can create my different scenarios and manage everything related to workflows on this interface. So we have completed the installation and configuration of n8n. So here I actually have access to my key that I received by email. I simply needed to copy this code or click on activate license key to be able to activate it. And so I simply went into the settings here in City, and you will see that in the usage and plan section, I obviously have an unlimited number of workflows, which is very interesting. I can also simply receive all the paid features by entering my key here. So I will click to add the key, not forgetting that this will actually save me from subscribing to paid plans. So I come here, click on enter key, and then I will simply copy and paste my key. Once my key is entered, I will simply click here on activate, and there you go. The license has been successfully added. So now I can simply use and work with the system without any problem. I have a fully active n8n account with an unlimited number of workflows on a server that is hosted on Google Hosting, and I can launch it. So we have seen how we could optimize the installation of n8n and be able to run and work with all the scenarios and workflows at a lower cost, with of course a performance server that can support the different scenarios. So once we have access to our interface, what we are going to do is click here to create a new workflow. This will be a simple workflow, so we will do it. As a trigger, we will just set the chat here. There you go. So it can actually launch the trigger. and we are going to place an MCP here. So you will see when I click here and type MCP, you will see that I have the module. But how do we add this module? To add this module, I will go here. Into the settings, of course, I save this. Then I will go to settings and I will go to this part here. Be careful, it's the community nodes, and there I will click here to actually add the name of my n8n code. So to do it, you will see that here, I will go to this website, which is the npm site. Gees.com, you will of course find the information for this site here. There you go. In the documentation, that's actually it here. Rather, it's this one. So here I will simply type, if I go back to the home page, MCP, and press enter. You will see that. So this is the server where I will download and set up the system. Here, there is information regarding the MCP nodes. So I just copy the title and you will see that here in my partner server. I go back to my server interface. I will type that, click on it and save it. But be careful before clicking on install. It was absolutely necessary for me to install a few command lines because these command lines will allow my server to install all the npm packages. Look here, it says npm package. And for this to work, you will see that I have provided you here with some lines of code that allow you to install all this information. So this first part here, this is a section that shows you step by step how to install my server and how to make it accessible in MCP mode, and that it should accept other packages. So to do it is very simple. I will guide you step by step. So I simply go back here to hosting, of course, in my VPS server here. And this time I will click on Browser, Terminal. So there it will take me to the section Terminal where I will enter via SSH, where I can simply run a few lines of code here. So you will see that here when I ask what version of my npm command, because it's thanks to that I can run code. So I will type npmv. You will see when I run it, it will show me that I have the version installed correctly. So for me, it's okay. So if you don't find this version installed, or sometimes it might even tell you that npm is not installed, you will simply go here and copy this first command line. You will just paste it here and it will start the installation for you. Of course, for me, it's already done. It's already installed. But for you, if it's the first time you're doing it, it will install it for you. So once that's done, you will also need to install what we call Node. So here I will copy and paste the same thing. So here, this is for Node. First Node, actually, to install it. It's this command line that allows you to install Node. But for me, I'm just going to check the version. I should have version 20. So let's see. Indeed, I have version 20. So if it gives you another version that is not version 20, because you will need the very latest version, this one will allow you to use the MCP separately. But if you are going to use the MCP within an AI agent, you must follow it. This procedure I have detailed for you how to update. So my MCP model, you will find the steps well explained here. You just need to run these two lines of code, and once you check the node version, you will find that it switches to version 20. So here, my system is ready. Therefore, I can simply return to my interface. So here, if I return to my scenario here, if I click here, if I type MCP, you will see that it will be available and it will be installed. Of course, here, when I run the install of my node, here it will accept it. You will find that the node will be installed correctly when I press the install button. This means that it cannot be functional unless the node n and m are installed on my server. And thanks to this hosting, I can install them easily with SSH. So to actually import the system, it's simple. So if I go to the home page, well, of course, we will save this. If we go back to the home page, you will see that I can create a new workflow here. So I click here and then you will go to import from URL or import from file if you're going to download the file. You will click on import from file and there you will see that I have the file. Be careful, see, when you download my file, it is in a compressed zip version. So be careful, this is a very important detail. You need to decompress it to get the JSON file. Because there are a lot of people afterwards, they came. They send a message to tell me they can't import it. But be careful, To import it, you need to decompress it to get that file. You will simply select it, press open, and it's done. The magic has just happened. So, of course, if you're doing it for the first time, it will ask you initially to make the connections and create the APIs. That's where it will give you a message, it will assist you. So then, for each API, you needed to create them to have the connection. Because for me, I have WordPress connected, I have Gmail connected, and the MCP, of course, it had to be installed for it to work and run. That's how I import my file. So the file is ready to be deployed once you make the connections. Then don't forget to enter here and change. In fact, it's very important. The values, and put your own values. Of course, in the file that I will give you, there won't be any values. It's intentional. I wanted to provide a file that doesn't contain values because what I use is just for testing. It's up to you to enter the email. It's up to you to enter the Slack channel ID and to set up Notion, of course, so that it runs and it activates, of course. And so we actually need to test our system or our workflow. There are several ways to do this. The simplest way is to come here, you'll see. So I can click here and I can retrieve two types of URLs. So there is a test URL and there is a production URL. So the difference is that the production URL is a URL where I can share it with my team. I can use it myself to launch my workflow without having to test to completely open n8n. So then this URL, you'll see when I open it here, look, this is the URL actually. It will give me direct access to a form. When I launch it, it will start working. But for me, when I want to launch it, be careful, I want to review the flow of information because I am in test mode. So, if I launch the production mode here, it will execute, it will work, it will give me the result, but I won't see how the information flows. But to explain to you, to give you a demonstration, I would like to see the information, how it flows. So as a result, I will use the test mode. And to use the test mode, you have a small button here, test workflow. So it will execute all the work, it will produce all the results of course, but the difference is that it will perfectly show me the flow of information, and that's what I need to properly make this video and explain to you how it works. Let's go, come on. I click here. And now it will simply ask me to input the information regarding the dates I want to search. So, the topic. So here, enter the subject. We will take a subject where we will ask it to compare DeepSeek with Cloud 3.7 and DeepSeek version 0.324, the very latest version. So before I start, this pop-up here, I will just show you that of course I have a Slack here, so we will place Slack right next to it to see if it will write the information here when it finishes or not. I will also check the email inbox, so I will make sure that I receive an email address here after sending, and also I will refresh. Here, you will see that there is no article on my site, so it should write and publish an article for me, and here I also have a database. So here as well, the same thing, I need to write in this database. Let's go. So I'm coming back here. So to properly follow the progress of this demonstration, what I'm going to do is raise this a little like this. So we will launch it and let it run to the end. Afterwards, we will read and check at the same time if it is sending information or not. So here I do submit. There you go. So there you go. So what it's doing on Perplexity, it's working. It's preparing the research related to this theme. It will bring out all possible citations. You will see that they will be formatted. Then here it will actually retrieve the variables. And then it will send them to ChatGPT. There you go. So now it has moved to ChatGPT. By the way, I can see the traffic by clicking here, Open Chat. You will see here normally. There you go. It's actually writing to me the different nodes. It's consulting, for example. It has published on the website, so quickly we check on the site. We will refresh just to see if there's a new line. There you go. It just added to the site. That's good. It just sent an email. So look here, I can already see the email, so I can click to see a bit of the output. There you go. I see that it has been sent, so we verify indeed the article has just been sent. So we show it, oh yes, and Slack, there you go. It just sent a message on Slack, that's important. And the database, we'll see if it did. Database insertion, yes. So the database insertion, we check it. So here it uses the database. And indeed, in fact, I have everything I need. So here we try to see the article. So it gave me the URL of the article. We'll just see the article, how it is published. There you go. This is my article. Of course, later on the text design side, we can certainly improve. We can even add images. So this is the work side. So then if I look, I was able to simply execute the entire system in a few seconds, and it went all the way around. So now we will try to see together the reading of the data flow, how the information was exchanged, and how the variables were passed from one node to another to reach the conclusion at the end of the circulation of information. So we will do the reading. First, I will close the chat here. We don't need it. We can click here on Hit Chat, because at the beginning, in fact, it didn't work with the chat. It worked just with this first module. So we will read this first module. So you will see I'm going to click here on Perplexity Research. So look, there. It has just received this node, Perplexity Research. In fact, it has just received information from the node that is just before. All right? And now the information has just been sent here. So there you go. The text that I wrote has just been sent, quite simply. And then if I scroll down a little here, we can increase there. Of course, this variable here, the one we corrected, since it was copied here, the content has just been launched like this. So this part has just been sent to Perplexity, to this model. So Sonar Pro has just sent this request. It will actually ask it to execute all this work and find, there you go, information related to this topic. Now, if I come and click on Format here, where I formatted the work, you will see that here I have received on my left, look to my left, I have received a lot of information, especially the citations. Look, there are Facebook pages, YouTube, artificial intelligence pages. There is a lot of information. So here, I have just received it here. There is also content that is sent with resources. Look here. All right. And I will, of course, have all the information. So there are several types of information here. So then what did we do? We did a little cleaning to remove all the sources and all that. And you will see that here I have content that is clean. So here there is information that is well organized. So then this system, until it arrives here, in fact, it sends the information. In reality, we don't see the information. It's not there. The information is now going to be retrieved here. But why does it go through this? I did it on purpose so that it can activate this name, so that I don't do it manually, so that the node where it will initialize the variables, remember that we actually put variables here so that it is actually sent to ChatGPT. I wanted to go through this path just to trigger the sending of these variables to ChatGPT. Okay, so when we get to this part, we will simply need to click on Open Chat to follow up a little on all this information, because on Open Chat it explains to me exactly the different executions of all these nodes. Okay, now we are going to read this part, which is actually the ChatGPT part. So you will see that, of course, the system actually makes an input, filling the prompt I provided with the necessary information it has collected. So all of that, this is my prompt. So to better understand what actually exists here on my right, because it's very important to understand what was asked of it, we will go to this agent so that I can simply see and understand the data. So here I click here to increase a little bit. So you will see that the last thing it retrieved are these variables. But of course it has the ability, look here when I click on the diagram. So apart from these variables, I was able to collect several other pieces of information, like for example, this information regarding the data that has been formatted. In terms of Perplexity, we didn't retrieve much. So we didn't retrieve much. Especially here, we retrieved the new variables and that. These are the two parts that we retrieved, because it will help me to take action. So we will say that we will keep this, and how to keep it? Quite simply I called here. Come on, let's do the reading here. So here is the print. And once these variables, what you are seeing in green, here are the variables here it shows you how these variables are with the data it retrieved. So it's very important to do this reading because for you, when you follow your flow and data stream, you will understand how the information circulates. If you can't follow your prompt, obviously your entire automation can't work or there will be bugs. So it's very important to read here and see the expression and see the result. That's how we do the readings. All right, let's go. I'm looking here actually at the level of the expression. So in my plan, I tell it to react as an expert in SEO writing, like for articles. And here I tell it, here you are going to work on an article that we will publish, and here is the information for my article. So look, this one here is exactly the data returned from here. There you go. It's called the search. So for me, how do I define them? Quite simply, I define them like this, drag and drop. So here, I put it here and sent it there. So that's it. Look, I hold it like this and then I send it to the end. Of course, I'm going to delete it because it's already set. And you will see that here it shows me that my information is correct. If I ever had a small problem here, it would be in red and it would show here as undefined. So imagine this variable, it will be replaced with all this text. Well, there's a lot of text, so that's the text. All of this is the text that has been replaced. So there are several texts, look, which comes from Perplexity. All this text, I told it, listen, you will do up to 5 missions. So here I specified 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the agent, its mission, its objective, what will it do? Initially, its objective is to write an article and publish it on WordPress. So all of this, what you are seeing, is my command for it to publish the article on WordPress. You see here when I gave this command. Look, I gave this command. That's the intelligence of this agent. When I click on this node, you will see that it is the one that considered the title. So it's the one that takes care of filling it in. It's not me who will input the variables. And that's the strength of n8n with AI agents. And even the content, it's the one that will do it. I can even add other descriptions if I want. So the AI is the one that will configure this system. You will see it's actually the AI that filled this in. And everything you're seeing here on the left, it's the AI that filled it in. It created the script. That script in JSON was actually written by the AI. And so that's what makes this intelligence powerful. So I always go back to my prompt. Then the first task is to write the article. The second task is to publish it on WordPress. The third task is to send an email. I tell it, you send it to this address. Remember that this address is actually this one. It's this variable. And I wanted to send it to this test email address. So it will apply that. Then I tell it what to put in the email. So I included the information I want to receive in the email. And here is what the email I receive actually looks like. So there is a title. Here is the message. Of course, I can also disable this sentence. So it's just an option. So disabling it is not something important. But here, as you can see, this is the email I receive. And if you noticed, the strength of the AI agent is that it is capable of determining which node in question has that mission or that task. That's the job of the AI agent. So as a result, it's not that we are sequential. We must send the information directly to the next module or to the module so that the module triggers and executes. The AI agent has several tools and it's up to it to balance, switch, and know which tool is necessary to use. That's it. So in the end, I asked it to also send a message on Slack. So there, I gave it the channel ID. Look here. The channel ID is the one we defined here. Then you will see that we have a section here to write to the database. So in the database, I actually gave it the columns, but of course, you don't have to define the columns here. You can ask it to actually detect the existing columns because it has the ability to know. Look, at the beginning, I ask it to detect all the tools, all the actions that Notion can perform. And among these tools, there is, of course, the possibility to actually read the properties, as we call them, of a database. And then I can ask it to fill in all the properties with the corresponding information. So then it will format, because each property, in fact, there are those that are URLs, as you can see here. This is the URL type. This is the status type. So it's a selection to indicate whether it's published or not, or in progress. Here, it's a column that contains the content, another that contains the subject, and I provided explanations on the type, but you don't have to do it. I wanted to do it in a way, maybe it's a choice actually, but then it's up to you to decide if you want to let it determine the properties itself and choose the corresponding values. If I take a look at my database a little bit, there you go. So look at the database, it has put the information here. Actually at the title level, there you go. Look, the content, the status, what we did, and the website too. It's a link that connects there, right? So then, this is the information actually related to my database that has just been added. And that's really good actually. Because the system actually, today, I provide the maximum amount of information, but if you look, there are pieces of information that are dynamic. The first piece of dynamic information is the ID, God, God of God, of God, God of God, of God, of God, of God, of God, of God, God of God. From the database, which is this one, I defined it here. There is also the column, actually. I wanted to keep the question that I put at the beginning. Do you remember that we put the subject? So then I put it here. So you might ask how I wrote all this. Well, listen, it's drag and drop, so I come back here, I can capture the question. Well, by the way, look at the perplexity of how even the quotes, how they refer to them. It's very interesting. Well, I deleted the quotes. So if I go, there you go. That's the question actually, that's it, that's the one I asked. And so this whole variable, when I hold this one and I hold it with the cherry, I click and send it here, it will give this result. Look, here, I hold it. Hop, you see, so it's the same, drag and drop, so as soon as I slide, it works. And at the end, I tell it to be careful. I want you to make sure that all the steps are completed so that you can move on to the next step. So, this is my prompt. Of course, when you look here, you will see the glass has just been filled. It's very beautiful. This way of reading, I find it very interesting, very clear. So there you go, it filled with the corresponding information. So that's what's very interesting. So you can really do a nice reading here. And there you go. So it was really necessary to read this code. When you see it there, I didn't type any code. Practically, we don't type code, but we are able to make simple readings and simple movements to give meaning to this workflow, to the flow of information. But of course, there had to be logic behind it. Okay, so we have read the prompt. We will try to see later, when I send it, how the information is passed for each node to better understand, because everything that the information does, it is also circulated here. The order is kept there. That's very interesting. So if I want to see the sequence, I see the final print, it's this one. Then what he did was start publishing on WordPress. This is important because already, remember in the print, it's among the things I ask that he writes, that's what he did, and then he publishes. So he followed up on that. Then he goes back to ChatGPT to retrieve the data and information. He tries to create a JSON language to perform other actions. To create here simply a JSON language, in fact, to perform other actions, like voici. To create here simply a JSON language, in fact, to perform other actions. To create here simply a JSON language, in fact, to perform other actions. Then he went to Notion to read what features are available on Notion. All these are the features that Notion can perform. For example, Notion lists all users, find all the users of a database. To actually search for a user. So here, look, this is literally creating a database. If I want to create a database, then launch a query, a request on a database. So this is very important. But for you, you don't need to understand this if you're not a developer. You just need to ask it to connect to understand the functions. It is the one that will understand and detect what the functions are. Then it will execute them. You will see that there, when it does Notion, it also wanted to read Slack. It wanted to retrieve the actions from Slack. Because when it knows both actions, it can then determine which module to select, which tool to choose. There, it's sent via email. Look, so there, it received the information and then it sent it. There, it went back to ChatGPT to work on our JSON again. And you will see that there, it went directly to Slack. So obviously, look, it was the one that did that. So it set up all the data and information. Look, if we can see, And if I go into the input, because it always has input output in the input. In fact, we look at the command that he created. He has selected the tools, he selected the channel ID and the text. If I go here on Slack, look here on Slack, you will see that we said artificial intelligence is the one that chooses the tool, and it is the one that chooses the parameters. That's it, this line here, how to write it. Quite simply, you will write it like this, copy paste. But be careful, you absolutely had to activate this part, which is expression. Because if you make it fixed, it will no longer be a function. So it had to be in green because it's a function, functions and variables. It must be with this color. Okay. And the remark I already mentioned, and I'll say it again, regarding Notion. Here, it is very case sensitive, so the entire parameter must be in lowercase like this. It's just here on Notion. Notion is a bit special. On the writing side, it is very case sensitive. So, if I go, we will head to Notion. Look at what it did in Notion. Look, there is the parameter. Of course, it defined the database. If I scroll down just a little, here are the properties, in fact. So, the tool he used is Notion create database item. So consequently, it's the function to write or add a row in my database. That's it. Where did he find it? He found it here. So it's not me who will define it here. He's the one who does what's necessary. Then, there you go. He has name, which is of type title. It's the same if I go to my database. Let's try to go to our database. Here. The name here. In fact, it is of type title. This one is of type text. It's the text URL type. And it's selection. So, if I come back here, you will find that the same thing. There you go. Subject is text. Rich text, that's how it is. The type, the same thing. If URL, it's URL and status. It's select and the content. It's rich. Text also under its voice there. The content is rich text. In any case, he did everything necessary to capture that information. And there, normally, he is done. This is a little recap. This is the chat. This is the final response that I can send here if I want to display a message. I can do it. This is a bit like the final message. There, he is talking to me. He tells me that there is Article 1, the emails that have been done. So he gives me a little recap that everything is fine. So here, I have actually done a recap on the reading. Of course, you have the option to click on, for example, on our channels. You can click like this. And you will simply see here the input or the output in what is very interesting. So there you will see at the level of the variables, and there you will see the output, how it displays it. This is the design or the way in which you can see the formatting. I would also like to show here in this chat how I can operate it. First, I can click here twice. And I will obviously take a copy of this, because if you don't take a copy, it will disappear. So you copy that. So I save it somewhere. Okay. And what I will do is tell it to switch to the chat. There you go. I can even add memory here. Look here, there is the memory. I can click here to add a memory. I will take this one. A memory that goes up to 15 discussions, for example. So, the memory, I will put it here. I will save. Of course, it is absolutely necessary to save. And preferably refresh the page so that it is taken into account. And why do the chat? Simply, if, for example, because I am not going to run this whole module every time to test here. So, as a result, we cannot waste a lot of time. And especially imagine if we have a too complex model with several AI agents. So when I activate this chat, you will see here. If I say open chat, I will just talk with these people or these tools. Look, for example, here, if I just say like this to test, I say hello, you will see it will send the information and return it. And each time it will save it in memory and it is responding to me. So when I press and ask a question, it's just the agent that will respond to me. So I tell it here, it was necessary. For example, there you go. I want, for example, to ask what is inside of the Slack tool, for example. If I ask it that question, you will see it will just go to Slack, check the list to answer me. So this is very important for me to test. When I test the functions, when I install them and everything. So I am in chat mode, you see there. Only this branch is green, the other one. It doesn't work because it only takes the chat mode, and that's very important. Look there, it just displayed for me. So here are all the functions on chat on this that explain to me one by one what it does. What does it do? And everything. Imagine that now. Come on, we are going to do another test. We are going to tell it to send me a message on this channel here. I will tell it, Saints, her to doctor. All the action, so explain to Eddie. Okay, now, look, now I am going to ask to send. Normally, here, you will see it must first go through the mode to know what information is on Slack. But in memory, it has already recorded. So that's why I add the memory. So as a result, I can continue the discussions with it. All right. You see, already there, it tells me if you want me to help you with another tool. You see, so as a result, there is continuity in the chat. That's why I add the memory. So now I execute it. So we'll see, we open Slack here. Normally here, we have to wait for it to say good hello. So it needs to respond to me. We'll see if it doesn't work. So it tells me it's okay, but it should display. So if it doesn't display, we'll try to understand why. So what I'm looking at here, nothing has been displayed. Great, sorry. Yes, I put an ID. From another channel. It's great. It's general. There you go. So it has just been added here. We'll do it because here actually training. That's it. Actually, the code, I can tell it here. Now, send here. You will see that there it understood. It must understand that I'm talking about Slack and it's the ID of the new channel because the system, if I don't give it, just wrote it here in the information. So therefore, that's the importance of memory. And that's why I activate it, because I can work on everything, follow everything. So send emails, test the modules one by one without having to consume my API. Because that one, it consumes just the app actually from OpenAir, and it actually avoids consuming other apps that I used elsewhere. Be careful now. When I delete, for example, to actually return it to the classic mode, what I will do is delete the memory. Why? Because look, if I go here, I'll show you. When I click here on the memory, you'll see the moment. It depends on a session. That session, in fact, is the chat session. Okay, that's the chat session. If I switch to mode here, it's not in chat mode, in print mode here, look. Of course, I will actually copy paste all the print because it doesn't save. There you go. So everything is fine here. You will see that this memory will no longer find the active chat session because it is no longer available here. This can cause errors. So, as a result, I just delete the chat and add it only when I need it. I save it. So now my system is operational. We can ask it to write an article for us if you want on another topic. You will see that it will run without any problem. There you go. So we have seen a little bit of the overall flow of this workflow. So if you've made it this far, I think you like the workflow I proposed today. And if you want to go a little further, that is, learn to create your own workflow from scratch, from a blank page, I am writing a complete course where I will detail the integration of each module separately, step by step, screenshot by screenshot, where I help you start from a blank page on how you will create your own workflow. For each workflow, of course, that I create, I do everything that is called documentation to give you absolutely all the plans, all the necessary installations. It can be found on n8n and also on Make. I write a lot of workflows. So I have grouped this into a package which is simply a pack of 20 courses that contains everything that is automation, no code. You really find bots and workflows for everything. Download. This one contains 20 courses. For example, the one on n8n, it's a course. That one is number 17. So it's a course lasting 4 hours where there are a lot of details. And today you have just a promotion for my community on YouTube. You will just type YT20 and that allows you to get a discount. So there you go. You will get a really very limited time discount. Try to take advantage of it. And for those who want to go a bit further, we also have a 1,000 hour pack. This one also of 1,000 hours, you also have the possibility to use the same coupon YT20. It will actually give you a promotion you will see that you can take advantage of. So, for each of the courses, you will see that I always provide you at the beginning with a course material to download. This material afterwards will actually be accompanied by all the videos. So, each time, in fact, you will click, you will actually find the video where I will explain to you in detail. In fact, the handling and working with such and such artificial intelligence. So, this one is simply a system that is very developed, where I actually go step by step. It's made for beginners, especially for people who, in fact, do not have computer knowledge and want to learn how to do no code. So, there are a lot of courses in package format. I'll see you shortly in the next course. I'll see you on the other side of our special pack for our YouTube subscribers. Thank you very much and see you soon.